Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols Plus, a PlayStation podcast supplement. This is episode number. I have no idea. We're doing this kind of on the fly. My name is Colin Moriarty. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, someone I have been chasing after for some time. He's been slipping through my fingers, but I finally got him here on Sacred Symbols, the biggest PlayStation podcast in the world. His name is Hasan Kahraman. Hasan, thank you for coming, my friend. How are you today?
Yeah, hello, and thank you for having me. It's really an honor, really. I do have to say I'm a bit nervous, so I hope you guys keep that in mind. But it's really cool to be here and to talk about everything because I want to talk about everything. Like, just be all clear, be transparent, and hopefully, and of course, most important of all, to have a good chat with you guys. So,
no, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. We are not here to. I'll catch everyone up in a minute. We are not here to attack or put you in a corner or anything.
No.
Let me explain everything to everyone first if they're just tuning in, and then we will get into the interview in earnest. So, Hasan is the founder and I guess lead dev of Blue Box, a Dutch game studio. In the spring of last year, they announced an app, a real-time app, an experience app called Abandon, which they released on PS5. However, surrounding all of that has been great mystery. And I must say, and I don't know if you'll find this surprising or not, maybe you won't, is I've been writing, this will be my 20th year as a professional in the games industry. And this is the weirdest story I have ever encountered in my entire career. I think it's fascinating from many different levels. And there's a lot I want to ask you about Abandon and about your career and all of this. So I just wanted to set that up. That's what this is really about. And I want to begin at the very top. I want to know who you are. Where do you come from? What's your education and all of that? I mean, how did you find your way to games? Tell me a little bit about Hasan Kahraman. Like, we don't really, you're a name. We know your game. We know but we don't know your story. I'm curious if we can start there.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's a really good question. I love talking about myself. Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I'm actually just a dude living in the Netherlands. I've been working. I've actually learned games through how do you have to say it? Like self-learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, self-taught.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like I think it was 14. Yeah, I was 14 when I started, learning like modding and game development. Like, I purchased a book that you had this game engine, and this book basically took you step by step on how to make a game and how, basically what the basics are of a game, and basically from there I got more interested and basically, teach myself more about like modeling and animation and whatnot. And basically, that's basically where I started, and from there I basically, worked on, projects. That's more like game jams and, personal projects. And then, and later on, I basically, founded Blue Box Game Studios. But it wasn't an official company back then, because at the beginning it was more like some ideas and concepts of games, and it actually became a company in 2015. That's where the Blue Box Game Studios became official with concepts of games that were actually in development before that. But in 2015 became like an actual company. And I've been also working as a freelancer, as an animator, but nothing too fancy. It's just just small jobs, here and there, and that basically kept me going. And that's where I am now with Blue Box Game Studios.
Okay, so you had mentioned it, so it's about 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, that you had founded officially Blue Box as it existed. Was the studio originally just you? And you had mentioned this kind of freelance work you were doing. Was that the money that was supporting the studio and making its original games? Is that kind of the way it works?
That's a really good question that you bring that up. Yes. Basically, Blue Box Game Studios was first founded by myself, but I had some contact with, friends, and basically, they joined along. We were really small, and that's basically where we started. It was all small, like games. You probably have seen, the community have put a timeline of all Blue Box games, and you've probably seen a few, right? And for example, like The Whisperer is a game that I've made just by myself. This was just for mobile, and then The Haunting was actually made with friends, right?
And
Abandoned.
That's Create Q. Is that company that's doing The Haunting? Is that right?
I'll get back to that later
Okay.
because they're not an official company, right? And
Okay.
there is a lot of confusion about that,
Okay. Fair enough.
and that's on me. Poor communication. So yeah. So basically, yeah. The Haunting was a game that was created with friends. And Abandoned is actually a game that's actually become a serious project, right? Abandoned is not that fun project anymore with friends. It's actually now the real deal. It's serious, and that's why we got freelancers involved, and other parties involved. We have plans for Abandoned. After the prologue. But I don't want to talk about that right now
Okay.
because otherwise it's going to be like a promise that I don't want to do that, right?
Yeah, I
I
don't think you
want,
should be making
yeah,
any more promise. What
no,
my
exactly.
personal advice to you?
Yeah, exactly. And So basically, what I'm trying to say here is that we're working on prologue now, and we take really seriously. It is something we believe in, right? Abandoned is a game that we believe in. It's ambitious, and it's a personal project because every indie game has this personal touch in them, right? And in Abandoned, that personal touch is basically that realism. It's basically what I'm trying to say is that is what I believe how a realistic battle scenario would look like in game, right? And first person. So and yeah, that's basically that special thing in Abandoned. It's about that realistic gameplay. It's about I'm not claiming to be a triple A studio who has all the resources and funds to create this blockbuster, super detailed environment. But what we are after for is to create a realistic looking scenario, like an environment, but the package all inclusive, right? Just with animations and everything, whatnot included. So we are after that realistic simulation, right? Not to have it feel like an arcade game or a fast-paced shooter like Call of Duty, for example. But Abandoned is actually quite the opposite of those games, and that's basically where we are right now. And I know what I know what you're wondering is that so why haven't we seen anything so far? And that's because, and this is the thing, Abandoned is a personal project, right? It's personal. It's something I create. It's something that I'm really proud of. Um, but, and I'm really completely honest here, it's not perfect yet. It's not ready to be shown. It's sometimes it feels cheesy. Um, but I am at this point where I'm like struggling with myself, like in between decisions, whether should I just show any development footages of the game, because the community kind of does force me to do so, right? Or should I just stick with my original plan and just reveal it when everything is ready and like how I initially wanted to do, right? Um, so I still haven't made up my mind because at the same time I do believe showcasing some footages of the development build, even if it's not just in game, even if it is just a process like how like a visualization of a specific scene, or something like that, just anything, and and that's a thought that I've been struggling, in a short while now. And but the thing that holds me back here is gamers don't um, read. Let me put it this way: gamers don't really care about its development footage. They only care about what they're seeing. Their judgment is based on what they're seeing, and I just want it to be and because it's personal. I'm going to be very honest. It's scary. It's scary to see so many people, so big of an audience, and then having to look at your work just like that. So I want my first impression to be. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I want my first impression to be at least good.
Sure, but let me ask you this, because I'm looking at the PlayStation blog post from, it's actually, I had no idea. It was on April 7th, so we're recording this almost exactly a year later from when the original blog post went up, and you had said just before that you wanted to kind of have gone back to your original plan of showing it when it's ready, but that wasn't the original plan, right? I'm curious what happened here, because there's no way that you intended on releasing this thing and then not showing anything. It sounds like, based on reading this and a few interviews you've done, that you had a plan on releasing the entire game at some point last year. And then the app updated with that short sequence, and it seemed like you had more, because you had said that you had wanted to show a piece of the trailer you had kind of created. So where is that trailer? I mean, I'm curious what happened at the very last second that dissuaded you from ever showing anything. This is strange. This is where the strangeness really gets going for me.
Yeah, and I get why it's strange, because it's not really communicated. That's the purpose of us doing this right now. In the PlayStation blog, what you see there in the blog, that is exactly what the game is, right? When it comes to let me say this real quick. The PlayStation blog actually was more like an announcement to let you know that the game, this is the concept and it's in development, right? So it was more like a first platform announce. You know what I mean? It's not really a release announcement or something like that. It was just to tease everyone, like, hey, this is coming. It was not. I never trust me. I never had the intention. I never saw it coming that people would think that it was Hideo Kojima behind it, or that they thought it was a new Resident Evil 9 or a Silent Hill game. You know, so with the blog post, the only intention was to just to announce the game. But in my opinion, with your question, after a year, I do admit, the game was announced too soon. That's just a mistake. That's because it was just announced too soon. And then the real-time experience app was also announced too soon. But the reason why that was at the beginning, we had this small group of followers on Twitter, and I wanted to create like an engagement, and I wanted to show what we already have, which was not much, because it was still early in development. So I wanted to show the followers like what we have in the real time experience app, and then which will come to another point is with the SNL tweet, that kind of exploded things. And immediately we had so many followers. Like, it was so insane. Like, when I tweeted the SNL tweet, the idea behind it is because we had this small group of followers on Twitter, and people were already familiar with the concept of of the game, right? Being a survival game. So at least have people to guess the word survival out of it, right? That was the initial plan, like the initial idea, and the idea was then to release the real-time experience app shortly after that, even if it was like a short teaser running in real time. The idea was then to reveal the title name in full depth, like what it is. So it's not just only survival, but actually like the whole title name. But and this is the weird coincidences come in. This is where kind of that tweet kind of blew out of like just every 5 or 10 seconds we had so many followers, and the notifications kept on coming and coming and coming. And there was someone who I work with who was like where are they coming from? Like, we have an SNL tweet, but we were just engaging with our small audience, like what's going on. And then someone who I work with figured that, hey, like when you look at the YouTube comments, you have people guessing it's Resident Evil 9, or Hideo Kojima's behind it, or this is Silent Hill, and I was like, aha, so people think it's Silent Hill, and based on the comments that you saw, and it was quite confusing because like a month and a half ago, like in April, we had to put a statement on the website, and that statement was pretty much discussed everywhere. And I figured, okay, well, people got it now, and it was quiet for a month and a half, so it was just something that I didn't see coming, you know, and yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't know if it's funny or just annoying. It's just, but what I
Well, I think
can
it's a
say,
weird at the very least, because I think a lot of it was fueled by what seems like the coincidence that your name translates to Hideo, right, in Google Translate, which is interesting. I think that kind of drew some people, and of course the oddities surrounding Kojima's previous two games, which he did, or I guess PT didn't end up coming, but both times he created a fake studio, a fake story, fake logos, all these kinds of things. So I'm not saying you're doing that or that you did that, but I can see where people are starting to connect these dots, especially because it's a
nah,
PS5 exclusive and all of the rest. So I could and the SNL thing, like you said. Now, if I saw that tweet, to be honest, because I'm not a huge Silent Hill fan at all, I would have never made that connection. So I appreciate that particular aspect of it. But I want to ask you this, and this is kind of where my, I guess, development slant comes in. Sony, there's never been anything like what you're doing on PlayStation before.
no.
There's never been a real-time app. This is not something that just appears. I'm curious how did you pitch this to Sony? Are they involved in this at all? Because it's interesting that you chose to be a PS5 exclusive, which is fine, but and I know it's somewhat trivial, especially on the engine you're using to bring games from platform to platform. So,
Okay, so
yeah, so
yeah,
talk to me a little bit about this.
you're asking kind of like a NDA specific question, because it's kind of in depth, like what the process is behind the screens. But what I can say, because yeah, I don't want to give answers, of course. What I can say is that the real time experience was, it's our own idea, right? Because let me make one thing really clear to everyone. Abandoned is developed independently, right? Sony has like nothing to do with it. They're not funding it. They are not. We don't have a special deal with Sony that's like, this is only for us, right? That's not the case. Abandoned is dedicated for PlayStation. Yes, it's our own choice. It's the dedicated for the PlayStation community, and it will be only released on PlayStation platforms. Just because PlayStation is the right fit for these type of games, and yeah, we ourselves are also PlayStation fans. So it's a game that's made by PlayStation fans for PlayStation fans, and it's a game I personally believe in. And the real time experience is basically because I figured that the PlayStation 5 has a super fast SSD, right? You can load levels just within seconds, right? It has minimal loading, and with the features and with the next gen power, you can pretty much do new things. And a real time experience is a way that you can use for marketing your game. And what I mean by marketing is not these fancy Silent Hill rumors. No, it's completely the opposite. What I mean by marketing is actually have trailers or videos or footages that could serve as trailers, and put them in real time in PlayStation 5. And what these trailers are, what they are actually, they are more like bits and pieces of the level in the game, but you just basically put them in the app, and then it could be a cutscene, could be a cinematic, could be something playable, but it's just a new way. And this was not possible before on PS4, because every time you're gonna switch levels or switch um just scenes, there was loading going on, and you have the objects popping up the screen because of the hardware limitations. So PS5 was just a perfect fit to use a real-time experience, and that's the whole idea behind it. It's just to watch trailers, to watch footages in real time. And it's different than a demo, because a demo is something that's eventually, it's just playable, it's just a piece of the game. But a real-time experience is literally just a trailer, so it kind of adds that new and this is also something interesting, is that a trailer as an indie game developer, is making a trailer usually is very expensive, so indie developers make the trailers themselves, which may end up a bit, I'm not saying they're cheesy, I'm not saying they're bad, because trailer is real, there are good trailers out there, but basically what I'm trying to say is that as an indie, you might want to do traders in a whole different way. And I think that's also what people kept, looking at Blue Box aside of the conspiracy, because, like what the heck is a real time experience? You know, it's another marketing asset. And I believe it's just a shame really that we haven't been able to update it properly and to fill it with content properly, because just like you said, there's only a 5-second clip right now as we speak, which I'm absolutely not proud of. This is
Yeah, I was gonna.
absolutely,
Well, let me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but let me ask: how do you
yeah.
feel about or how do you respond to the accusations that everything that people have seen in screens and video they're all asset flips from Unreal? Is that true?
I mean, so the only asset we used is the forest pack for the initial teaser,
Okay.
and the reason why is this is for development purposes. And usually, when you make a game, you start with the gray box level, and you basically just make the mechanics there, make sure that everything works out. But we use that forest pack as a template, right? To kind of like to create, our assets, like the systems, in a realistic way. Like for example, like we do motion capture. And it's not what people think, that we have a fancy motion capture studio with mocap operators or something like that. No, it's just a mocap suit, and basically what we do is basically we capture them, we do motion capture, and then we basically obtain the raw data for it, and then we do convert, bring it into a program. We do cleanup. We making sure that we get rid of the noise and jitters and whatnot, make it make it look production ready, and make sure that it fits into a game logic. And basically we use that forest template as a starting point. It was never meant to actually include that in the game, right? Because we use speed trees for trees. At first I thought the trees were looking really good, and I was like, maybe we could use this in the game. But the community was like, no, don't do that. It's going to be an asset flip, and I mean, we at the end of the day, the forest pack was just for development purposes, and then people saying it's an asset flip, like we use metahumans, and the metahumans is actually meant for game developers to use for their games. We use metahumans for creating characters, not out of the box, of course, but more like we characterize them, and we do that, by changing the textures and clothing and whatnot. Um, but basically, yeah, that's all there is. And we create our assets from scratch. We do photogrammetry ourselves. We make models ourselves. So it's I get it where people are afraid of, because you have a lot of asset flips on the PlayStation Store and Steam and whatnot. You have a lot of them, and everything has been so fake. And I understand why there are some people out there who are afraid that it might be an asset flip, but that's absolutely not the case.
All right. So let me ask you a little bit more about the business. Something you had said to Jason Schreier when he interviewed you last year. I was reading his story on Bloomberg. You had said, and it's not verbatim, but what you had basically said is that Sony was attracted to you after a failed Kickstarter that you did. That's what you said to him. Now,
No, that's not what I said.
that,
That's yeah. It might be an article, but I think it's just his own wording. And yeah, I don't have disrespect to him. I think
he said, well,
he's a
just
great
to,
guy.
just to
But
put, he said, quote, he said he'd
he said,
attracted the attention of Sony in 2015 following that failed Kickstarter. So, is that not true?
so no. Well, what happened was he made it sound fancy. What actually happened was we had this game called Rewind Voices of the Past. And this was actually another version of Rewind that we had a Kickstarter initially. Uh, I'll get back to that in a sec, because that's actually pretty important to mention as well. But Rewind Voices of the Past was a higher quality version of the Kickstarter version, and that's why we also requested funding for Voices of the Past, right? And basically, we pitched a demo, we pitched a concept of it, we pitched the design document and whatnot. We pitched that to Sony, and basically, that's where we started being a PlayStation partner. As a third party, as an indie. But it's not that Sony approached us or something. It's not. It's not like that. It's just actually it's the other way around. It's actually Blue Box, approaching Sony, doing requests
Right. So like
and
my studio has done in the past
yeah,
to get your
exactly.
kits and all that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing fancy about that. I think he just used fancy words, but this I never said to him on the phone that it's PlayStation approached me. I never
Okay.
said that.
Fair enough. What one thing I'm curious about, and I don't think this should be NDA'd, is who's funding your game? Do you have a publisher or an
So yeah,
investor or VC? I'm curious who is funding this, because the way you're describing this game and the way it's been described, not only in that Bloomberg article but elsewhere, this game sounds like a mid 7-figure game, perhaps. I mean, you're talking about motion capture. You're talking about 50. You're laughing, but it says you're on the Bloomberg article. It says the team was 10 people, core people, with 50 people working in freelance, and you've mentioned 6 or 7 studios that have worked on the game, including
yeah,
Noir and Decogon, which are massive art studios. So these are not cheap things. So I am
yeah.
curious.
Let
I
me,
mean,
yeah,
yeah, talk to me a little bit about this.
yeah. That's a really good question. And the thing is, as I mentioned earlier, the motion capture was, as I said, it's a motion capture suit. Nowadays they're affordable for triple A's, for indies to afford. You know what I mean? It's not something that's tens of thousands of dollars. It's actually pretty affordable. And so let me give you a question which is a bit clearer of an overview instead of just going.
Okay.
So let me first start with, because I think this is important, because people really have questions about this. Rewind was Rewind, the paranormal investigation game, was on a Kickstarter. It got canceled, right? So everyone who backed didn't really have to pay for something, um, because if a Kickstarter campaign gets canceled, that's where people don't have to pay. All right, it was canceled because we have this private investor, and he was like, yeah, I'm willing to invest in your project, but I can only invest up to a certain amount of money, right? And anything above that is actually it's up to you, right? And I was like, sure. So I made a timetable of the costs, and it actually like exceeded the funding, and that's where basically after all the funding didn't go through at all, right? So that's where the game also, it didn't see daylight, because it was just too expensive to make. And so that's that. So when it comes to Abandoned, we have a publisher for physical only, right? For physical only.
Who
I
is the
can't.
publisher for physical?
It's Perb Games. So basically, what they're doing is they're just only for just releasing the physical version for the game worldwide. And at first, we were talking about funding and stuff like that for Abandoned, but when things become when we kind of like with the app, when we screwed it up and we were actually behind the facts, that's where they were like, okay, well, what, they were not confident about that situation. They just want to see progress in the development, so the funding got cut off, right? And so I was basically dependent on the funds that I already had, that I actually, it's actually my own savings, right? It's not money that's been invested or something, right? It's my own, it's my own funds. And so where the outsourcing comes in place, because of that whole thing, we were like, you know what, we were really pleased to work with outsourcing, like the Coggin, um, and some other more. And basically, what happened was, they made artwork assets for us, and at first we were like, yeah, we have this publisher, who funds it, and it was before the whole thing happened with the August thing, and then when the funding basically got cut off, we had to make special arrangements, say like, okay, we made our own terms, right? And now for to take everything safe, we're like, okay, well, we're gonna keep the assets, and you know what, we're just gonna wait before this game actually like releases, and then collect revenue, and then from there we can move on from there. So this whole situation kind of caused caused these things to happen. Yeah.
Wait, so because I want to get a little more clarity on this. So we're talking about Abandon.
Yeah.
You had an investor that's separate from the physical publisher, and that investor no longer exists. So this is a self-funded game at this point. Is that am I interpreting this
No.
correct?
So
Please explain it to me again. Yeah.
Yeah. So the publisher,
Yeah.
Perv Games, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's the physical stuff.
we were talking with them about funding.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were going to fund. So it was Perv Games.
And you started production under the assumption that you would get that funding. Is that
no
fair?
No. The production of this game actually started way before. But when Perp Games started to talk and be like, yeah, we can give you funds as well, and that's when I was like, oh, so so we get room to actually get external help, and they were like, eventually yes, but they were like, we only have a team in Brazil, so if you need more help, then yeah, you have to take take care of that yourself. So basically, that's what happened with the freelancers and with the with the outsourcing. Yeah.
So how much did you guys end up spending on or how much have you spent on the game total?
Yeah, I can't really say that because it's a sensitive topic, but what I can say is right now, roughly, I think we're about that's a good question. Yeah, quickly, just above 30K. Yeah.
Your entire budget has been $30,000 so far for Abandon?
Yeah, that's only for external artwork.
Okay, so
yeah.
There's just there's something that doesn't make sense to me here, because the Bloomberg article again, and I know you're contesting this, but this is the best stuff we have, unfortunately, so far. Is it said, quote, he said the Blue Box team consists of 10 people and that he had outsourced work to several other studios, which accounted for the 50 figure he mentioned earlier, end quote. So the rule of thumb in the industry, maybe not if you outsource to the developing world, I don't know, but the rule of thumb in the West is about $100,000 per head per year. So having 50 people work on a game is $5 million. So I don't, there's something up here I don't understand. Please explain it.
Yeah, no, that's totally on me. So basically, 50,000 people is basically when you add up all like the outsourcing studios, they have also like a lot of people working for them, right?
Right.
And they just assign from time to time like who's going to work on a specific art, who's going to work on a specific asset or something like that. So if when I said it's about 50,000, it's of course it's below 50,000, but that's the total number of people working on that, when you count all the outsourcing together, with their teams together. So
I just with such, it's just I'm not saying you're lying because I don't know for sure. I'm totally not saying that, but just to put in I know that, but I want to put it into context for the people out there. Noir just worked on Halo, right? They worked on New World. They, Dekogan did Returnal and Control. So that's why these are millions and millions of dollar contracts. So that's why I'm confused about the throwing out of those particular names. And you said in that Bloomberg article that there were actually 6 or 7 total outsourced studios. So this is where I think the confusion comes from now. I understand that slipping by a normal journalist, but I work in the industry. Like that doesn't make a
No,
lick of
listen,
sense.
listen. You can just ask me anything. I just want to be. I want to clear the air.
Yeah, no,
People have a lot of
I'm not meaning to
questions.
attack you, but that doesn't
No,
mean
no.
that just doesn't
So
pass the
yes,
sniff test.
let me let me explain. So yeah, at first we did had like 6 outsourcing, but that obviously became too expensive. So we were like holding that back. Um, and what you were saying, like Noir and Decogan, yeah, they know who Blue Box Game Studios were. They know that we're indie. As a matter of fact, we talked about this, with them, and they were like, "Yeah, yeah, we really want to work with you on this one." Noir and Decoga, these are great companies. Great people behind them. It's just yeah, there's nothing really. How do I have to say it? Like, yeah, your question was like, yeah, these are AAA. They usually work for AAA, but you know, they know that we were indie and they were willing to help us. So, that's actually all there is, really. I was
Fair
actually
enough.
trying to make a point, but that was my point.
No, fair. No, that's totally fair enough.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about Unreal. What attracted you to? You're using Unreal 4, right? You're not on the 5, obviously. What attracted you to Unreal 4? I think one of the compelling things in your favor in this whole drama is that you are active on the Unreal forums and have been for a long time. People know that and have brought that up. That was another thing that was in the Bloomberg article and the NME article that you did an
Yeah.
interview for. So what was attractive to you about this? Because one of the things that people are contesting from a because you're talking about how you're an indie. Your guys are claiming 4K at 60, native 4K on PS5, which is not unbelievable, but games come at that. But what was attractive to you about Unreal 4? And I'm curious, like, what kind of, if you have a specific publishing deal over there or licensing deal, or if your deal is the standard.
Yeah, so we do have with Unreal Engine like this private this Unreal developer thing.
So you're not I'm sorry. So just to interrupt, you're not in the standard $1 million grace period 5% deal. You have something else with them.
No, for Abandoned we have a custom license. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So, but the thing is, that person who mentioned that in Bloomberg wasn't supposed to say that. So now I'm like active in a confidential basis there. But yeah, basically, yeah, it's true. Yeah, I was active in forums. I was also helping folks out, with setting up their projects or whatever. Having some platform specific questions, difficulties. Yeah, I did help them. But yeah, again, that was actually confidential. It was sad. I actually I spoke to Jason about that. He was not supposed to say that. But yeah,
do you use PlayStation Neighborhood to connect your PS5?
That is a pretty, I think that's an NDA question.
Okay, fair enough.
So I'm not going to talk about that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay. Let me ask you, before I move on to this, I just want to reiterate, and you can decline. I mean, I want to ask one more time. You are declining talking about current funding, like who is funding this game and who is. I know you said you had these plans, but
yeah. Let me be clear.
Yeah. I want to know. That's the thing is, I've never heard of a game announced in which it's a mystery who funded the game. Like, I could understand you saying we haven't announced the game yet, but this is the thing. I really need to know who's signed on to this.
Yeah. So basically, the prologue. That's actually another thing. I wanted to discuss something else earlier, but I forgot it because we kept on talking.
I'm sorry.
So the prologue, actually, people think the prologue is a demo, which is not. It's a full game, but it's a small game, so it has a price tag. It's low. It's a low price tag because the game is not. The duration is probably, if you keep your time, it's probably about 2 hours of gameplay. It has a full set of trophies, including the platinum.
Nice.
And it has, the environments, parts of the environments of the full game are actually also in the prologue. And the idea about the prologue is essentially just to give you, just a hands-on on the game and the mechanics, the visuals, but most importantly, the story about the game. Are you guys aware that the main protagonist players play as is Jason Longfield?
Yeah, I read that in the post here.
Okay.
Yes.
So in the prologue, you're not playing as Jason Longfield. In the prologue, you are actually playing with some random dude. He's been kidnapped and brought to that place, and then left there abandoned, alone, and trying to figure out where he is and wants to find an escape. And this is where I'm actually sharing for the first time some story related info about the game. The game is about this people who have been kidnapped and been brought to this specific place, and basically there is they think that they're alone, but the thing is there is actually a community inside of that place, and this community is actually ruled by it's actually under control, forced control by this man, which the eye patch guy, and his name is Paul Longfield. So this, you probably get it now. He is the younger. He's actually the older brother of Jason Longfield. So Jason is actually younger. Jason lost his parents when he was 2 years old, and Paul was actually his older brother. So he knew that he had a younger brother. Jason didn't really remember him. So throughout time, Paul always kept an eye on him. But as they grow older, Paul kind of deviated from life. And that's where Jason actually, that's where Paul, started this terroristic dark community over there, and that's where he wanted to, take Jason, his younger brother, and be like, hey, you can have this power as well, just join me, right? And I'm not gonna talk more about the story because I already told too much. But
Did you write the story?
Yeah, I wrote the story.
Cool.
Yeah, so
that's what I do in game dev. That's the only thing I do. I just write the stories. Other people do all the hard work.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Paul is actually he's not alone, under control. This is the last thing I'm going to spill about the story. He has two assistants, and they are basically helping him out. And the community is actually people who are kidnapped. But the thing is, those who try to escape that place are being executed in front of everyone. And so kind of people are just staying in that place because they're afraid to escape and kind of, be there. And you as and this is the story for the full game, not the prologue. And you as Jason, you don't want to accept the offer of his brother, so he actually secretly forms this alliance against him. And that's where Abandoned is
cool.
about.
So it sounds a little bit like Battle Royale, the old Japanese book, not the genre. There's the inspiration for the Hunger Games and all of that, or a little bit of some of these other Lord of the Flies kind of things. Cool. Yeah. So I'm just going to go back and say that you're not going to talk about who's published, like who's funding this game. I said that was actually what I was talking about. Right.
So the prologue, so it has a price tag, and the prologue is actually, the revenue for the prologue is actually essentially going to be used to fund the full game, the base game.
Okay, fair enough. And did you say
self-funding?
Okay, so did you say what you're going to charge for it?
Sorry?
Did you say what you were going to charge for the prologue?
That's not really 100% confirmed, so I can't really say that right now, but it's going to be 100% below $14.99.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
fair enough.
So again, it's a short game, but at the same time, it is a game that is, it's our ambition, it's polished, and it's really exciting. Yeah.
I want to give you an opportunity to. I need to ask a couple of questions just explicitly, because they would allow you to people to just dissuade of this Konami Kojima connection. Okay, so do you know Hideo Kojima?
Yeah, of course.
You know him personally? I'm saying, do you know?
Oh no, I don't know him personally.
Okay. No. Okay, I was gonna say, you were like, of course. I'm like, I've been in the industry 10 years. I've only met him once. I didn't know he was. Okay. And you've never met him or communicated with him?
No.
And do you have any sort of relationship with Konami at all?
Konami, no.
So you've never talked to them? Did they reach out after all this happened?
Yeah, keep it really short. I reached out to them
Oh, okay,
because
interesting.
I was stressed out. I was stressed out because people think it's Silent Hill, and it got so out of hand, and you're just small developer, you never had a big audience, you're inexperienced how to deal with these things, and you're just kind of just do your best. And I reached out to Konami saying like, hey, you know what, it's never my intention, and they were really cool,
Right.
like everyone, like Konami, but also Sony has been really cool.
Yeah. What has Sony said to you in this time since?
Yeah, Sony is actually pretty cool. They're
Is it true that they gave you advice not to be on this show? If that is that true?
no,
Okay,
no,
I heard that.
no.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Oh no, that's not true.
Okay.
Sony, no. No, but Sony is pretty cool about this. They didn't force me anything. They don't force me. Yeah, just anything really. They're not forcing me. Yeah, you have to make it to the deadline or else. No, they're really cool. They leave it up to me. To do whatever I want. They give freedom, and it's really important. So Sony is really tolerant against towards indies. So that's a really cool thing.
Who's your connection over there? Who do you talk to on the production side?
That's again NDA.
Your production liaison is NDA'd, like who your production liaison is at
Oh,
Sony?
yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't want to take any risks, so I'm gonna avoid that question.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Well, that's not final, but one of the great mysteries to you, in my opinion, is that on your PSN profile is a game that has never been released, but that you have categorically played. It's in the run of your game. It says you've played a game called Demon Blood with a logo below it says Siren Head. What is that? I have to, because knowing how the PSN works, and I do. So just to back up and tell people how things work. The games and trophy system on PS3, you used to be able to manipulate that on debug kits so that you could get debug trophies on PS3 retail units. And so you would never be able to tell the difference. But starting with PS4, that wasn't allowed anymore. So when a game appears in a game log, it is published on the front-facing server. So what is this game? I am so intrigued by this. It says that you played it, I think, for an hour or two. Demon Blood, Siren Head. What is this game? I need to know what this is.
Yeah, that what you saw was actually a placeholder image, by the way. That
for your game, for Abandon?
No.
Okay.
It's not for Abandon. Absolutely not.
So it's a placeholder for something else.
Yeah, so that was a game. Yeah, so that was a game that I made for my nephew because Siren Head was really, really, popular at the time, and my nephew was really, and he's about 7 years old back then. Yeah, he was 8 years old, and he was really, excited to, but there wasn't really a Siren Head game on PlayStation, and he's a really big PlayStation fan. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make this game just for him. And then basically,
and you published it on, and you got it published.
It's not published. It's actually sitting there.
So it's on a debug kit.
So the idea, yeah, it's
okay.
So the idea was actually just to have it to play it. That he would actually play it. It wasn't. The idea wasn't. So first, the idea was to actually make a arcade game for the public out of that, right? But it wasn't that specific game. It was more like it didn't use Siren Head. It was a Siren Head. It was just excuse me. I just drank some pop.
No, it's all good.
Siren Head was actually more like a game for my nephew, right? But the game that I would make out of that eventually was actually more like a split screen game for the public. But
how did that end up in I just don't understand how that ended up as a package on PlayStation that showed like that. Wouldn't your nephew have to have his own debug to play a package?
I mean, if you are, I'm not really want to take risks, but
you can talk to me. I mean, we do develop on these kits. I don't think it's...
Yeah, but the audience. Okay. So the thing is, like, I want to keep it NDA safe. So basically, like with Siren Head, or with any other game, if you launch a game on a development environment, but you still go to a production environment, that basically, people can still see it, and I do believe it's gonna still list it up there.
Interesting. I'd never tried to log in with my real credentials on the debug kit, so I guess that's why It was something
Yeah.
I never saw. Okay, that's fair enough. I needed to ask you that because that to me is, I think, the greatest mystery. And if that's the way
Why?
you
I mean, it's just it's
why? Because
just
I don't think I've ever seen a package on a game list that was from an unreleased game in my life on PSN. I just don't.
and
I
that's
cover PlayStation. You know.
and that's why they're advising you, not to use an actual gamer account for a development
Yeah,
environment.
fair enough.
So
I didn't know that
that's
that was. I didn't.
yeah,
I've not even tried
I,
to. Okay, fair enough.
yeah,
Um, okay. Um, is there anything else you wanted to kind of say? I want to kind of give you the
yeah,
floor if there's something that
yeah,
you wanted to
yeah,
kind of say as we wrap up.
yeah. The timeline, what people keep spreading, saying like it's a scam. So the thing about the timeline is it's becoming interesting to take a look at a company or a studio. I don't want to use the word company because that's kind of gives people the idea that we're just a huge corporation, which is not. We're just a small indie studio. Um, but the idea, like the thing about the timeline is if you're gonna take a look at all the projects, in one specifics, a list, then yeah, sure, without context, without knowing the story about it, it might seem suspicious. But actually, what it is that and I say this over and over, is that the games that you see, like Unseen Faces, even Rewind, The Whisperer, and stuff like that. Those were games that were listed on a website called IndieDB.com. That's where indie developers can put their games on there and write articles for themselves to build up an audience. And games like The Lost Tape, Unseen Faces, they never actually got an audience, right? Uh, and as a developer, you don't want to take that risk. I think you would agree with that. If you don't have an audience, you just don't want to take risk in developing the game. So it ended up canceled. And The Whisperer was a mobile game, and it was actually high quality. And most of our customers were from Indonesia. They're from Asian regions, and a lot of them back then didn't really have this high end device, right? Like a Samsung Galaxy S9 or whatever. So they couldn't run it. So they bought the game, but when they realized that the game wasn't stable, they kind of always like refunded the game because and and at that point the game becomes dead. So it got removed from the store. Um, and with the haunting, that's also very interesting. The haunting actually got on Steam as an early access game, and there was a reason why. We had about 80 followers on Facebook, right? We had a Facebook page for the haunting, and so some of the community members were like, yeah, why aren't you just gonna make it an early access game, right? Just for us. And so we came up with the idea to to collect feedback. Okay, well, we let you play the game in advance, and the focus about that early access was actually more like what the battle mechanics were, right? Because anything else was a placeholder. The animations, the characters, the environments, everything was just a placeholder, and that's why it was so it wasn't really polished. The game has a dedicated functionality to provide feedback, right? And that was the idea, that was the intent behind it. But what happens when you put a game on Steam? Everyone gets to see it, everyone can buy it, and so people who never interacted with us before, they don't know the story about it, and they're gonna like, "No, what the crap is this?" you know. Um, and at some point, and yeah, people refunded it, which is fine, of course. I want that, and that's why I was like, what, it's best to delist it for now, and and release it later, right? So at this point, the haunting is now. I gave it, and this is where what you said earlier about Createch, right? The game got handed over to them, right? It's just friends of mine, and they're working on the game under spare time, right? The haunting will be free of charge on Steam eventually, and they're actually working on it. And people who are interested in develop, be involved with the development for the game, they are pretty much welcome. They can also work on the game. Um, but it became a more like a extra hobby thing instead of having this professional thing, right? So that's why it became free of charge. And people who already bought it, who did not do a refund, they can eventually get abandoned for PS5 or free of charge, or they can get abandoned for PC free of charge.
How are you going to do that on PSN? Are you just going to give codes out to people that can...
That will be on my own cost. Yeah, I am willing to pay it for myself because it's unfair. So I'm willing to do that myself. Yeah.
What, I guess it's kind of a postscript, but do you... I don't want to say do you take any responsibility. It's really up to you. But like with the reason I think I messaged you most recently was because you guys deleted a bunch of tweets and then put up a statement.
Yeah.
Why? I don't even know how to put this. It's like, why has it been so difficult for you to stay out of your own way in some way? It seems like you are a glutton for punishment almost. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like after the reveal of the app and things not going right and so on and so forth, you'd think you would literally just kind of go dark until you really had something to show. So why did you delete those tweets? Why draw more attention to yourself when you're kind of still in work mode?
So yeah, that's a really good question. Because a few people have saying that, telling me the same thing. Like, are you doing it to get more attention? And the truth is, the idea. So the reason why the tweets were deleted was the information that was in the tweets, right, was outdated, and I wanted to kind of like, because we have newer information that is more accurate. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to delete it now to avoid confusion. I'm going to tweet new thing, the newer update about it. That was, I'm inexperienced. I'm not a marketing guy. For some, it might be self-explanatory not to delete these tweets, but yeah, I made a big mistake. That's my responsibility. I just didn't know what the outcome of that would be. Apparently, people were talking about it. There was a rumor that we had to respond to. That's after seeing all of this, I'm like, you know what? I think it should have been stayed there, and then tweeted the newer update later, and people will eventually see for themselves like which is the outdated version and which is the the newer the more relevant tweet. So yeah. So
have you since hired PR and marketing to help you on the inside?
There was, but then we kind of stopped with the PR thing with them, and basically that's where I got me and I'm gonna be honest, everyone who works at Blue Box, like I consider them as friends, not really as team members, but they are actually, like, everyone has access to the Twitter account. But we are looking for a dedicated
You want to hire
person.
a firm or something? Is that what you want?
I actually prefer like a person internally, just
okay.
to hire.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm looking for that. And we are actually, once the prologue is out, we actually definitely want to expand our team.
Who's on? Can you name anyone? Can you tell me anyone that's on your team right now? I was looking for this too. Like, who is?
Conversation. I had this conversation, and that's not a good idea because people really don't want to be known right now. Because
would you put me in touch with one of them? Would you put me in touch with them? One of them privately, so that I can speak to them.
I'll ask. We communicate through email, but I'll ask them, and then But I respect their wishes that they don't want to be publicly known, right? Because it's very heavy for them as well. They were like, yeah, I'm done with Twitter. No, I'm out. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore, because not that they're stepping out of Blue Box, but more like they don't want to see what people are telling about us,
Yeah, that's hard to see. I understand that. I totally get that.
And trust me, man, there's a lot of threats going on. It's not healthy. I just want to say, if people are watching this, you should definitely stop with that. That's not okay, man. We will go. We will go to the. We do file in police reports, and like the things that people say and do. Yeah, that's just insane.
No, I agree with you. You should file police reports, and I've often said it's going to take someone to pay the price for like their threats and their and their anonymity online and trying to use that as a weapon to cudgel people. No one should be doing that. And I agree. These people should be pursued if the laws in your country allow that to happen, which they probably do. So, yeah, this has been interesting. I want to talk to you again one day if you'll be if you don't have to commit to it now, but maybe when the game is out, we can talk about the game itself. And
listen, I pretty much, I enjoyed the chat, my intentions are not malicious. My intention is just to come clean. Like, if you have more questions, just be open about it. Just be honest about it. Definitely, if you want to chat again, definitely 100%. Yeah, it's definitely, I'm definitely down for that.
I hope you feel like you were treated fairly. That was my only goal here, was to treat you fairly and to get questions out there. I mean, if you feel otherwise, you're more than welcome to say so.
Yeah, listen, I get how people are right now, that's my own fault. That's my own, and I'm speaking towards people now, not just only to you, but
sure,
to the audience. Like, I legitimately understand how everyone is feeling. I know why people are skeptic. I know why people are, angry and mad about me or Blue Box, right? Because there were false promises made, missed deadlines, and all the time you see, well, we're gonna do this, and then last minute you had this, but we need more time, and I get it. I get why there is frustration, right? I 100% get it. But what I do have to say is, this is a video game. And the things that some people say is over a video game, come on. I mean, we are real human beings, right?
Yes.
If you're skeptical about the game, all I'm saying is, just wait, let us do our jobs. And then when time comes, you'll see it. That's it. That's all you have to do. I mean, yeah, you can rage, but that's not going to solve anything. Everyone, it's Twitter. You can say whatever you want, and you are welcome to do so. But you do have to realize that there is a team working on a game, and that team has also emotions, and that kind of atmosphere which you see on Twitter has effect on the development. So if you want to play a game where we can be like, work, because creating a game is stressful on its own. It is, especially when you're indie. That is extra hard. And if you see like how people react on Twitter, I just want to tell them, just let us do our jobs. Just cool off, because eventually that will also end up give you a better game in return.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I feel like that's just good advice for anything. Everyone should cool out, be easy. Well, you're very welcome back with us when the game comes out. And Hasan, I want to thank you again. I know that you just finished your fast for Ramadan as well, so you're probably tired. So I thank you for taking the time to do that. And we hope to have you back when Abandoned's prologue comes out. And all of you out there, I hope you found this illuminating and interesting. Thank you for your support and love and kindness on Patreon and elsewhere. We'll see you next time for more Sacred Symbols Plus. Until then, goodbye. Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. It's edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand's shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.